Imagine a small, peaceful town in Iowa, Binsworth. Picture the quiet, tree-lined streets, the quaint homes with their well-tended gardens, and the friendly faces of its residents. In Binsworth, neighbors are more than just people living next door. They're part of an extended family, sharing meals, laughter, and the occasional hardship. The town is a sanctuary, a haven of safety and tranquility, where children play freely in the parks, and the elderly enjoy their twilight years in peace. The local sheriff, Terrence Walker, maintains law and order with a firm but gentle hand, ensuring that Binsworth remains a beacon of harmony in a world often riddled with chaos. The sense of community is palpable, a thread that weaves through every interaction, every shared smile, every helping hand. But all of that was about to change with the arrival of a man named Brady Whitney. Brady Whitney, a man with an aura of mystery and charisma, moved into a quiet neighborhood of Binsworth. His move was uneventful, his presence unsuspected. He settled into a simple house, nestled between dainty picket fences and manicured lawns. But beneath the surface of this ordinary facade, a sinister plot was about to unfold. Whitney's house, as it turned out, was anything but simple. A labyrinth of secret rooms and hidden compartments lay beneath the seemingly innocuous structure, housing a burgeoning empire of criminality. From this unassuming base, Whitney began to orchestrate a network of illicit activities. His product of choice? Drugs. Meth, fentanyl, heroin, a toxic trifecta that would soon hold the town in a vice grip of addiction and despair. But Whitney didn't stop at merely selling these poisons. He had a more insidious plan. He began recruiting local high school kids, easily swayed by the allure of easy money and the thrill of danger. A charismatic snake charmer, Whitney manipulated these impressionable youths, turning them into foot soldiers for his growing empire. Before long, these once innocent teenagers were transformed into hardened criminals, their futures stolen away by the allure of Whitney's wicked world. And so, the drug operations began. From the shadows of his suburban hideout, Whitney masterminded a reign of terror, his products poisoning the veins of Binsworth. His empire grew, its roots snaking through the town like a deadly parasite, feeding on the lifeblood of the community. Every corner, every alley, every home was tainted by the stench of Whitney's operations. The town, once a haven of tranquility, was now a breeding ground for crime and violence. And so, the seeds of chaos were sown. A once peaceful town, now held hostage by a man whose name they barely knew. A man who, from the shadows of his simple house, was about to unleash a wave of horror that would forever scar the face of Binsworth. 3 months after Brady's arrival, the town sheriff Terrence Walker stumbles upon a horrifying scene. The tranquility of Binsworth, Iowa, was shattered. Rick and Danielle Highsmith, beloved pillars of their community, were found brutally murdered in their own home. This wasn't a random act of violence, it was a calculated, cold-blooded execution. Sheriff Walker, a seasoned lawman, was no stranger to the harsh realities of crime. But this was different. The Highsmiths were a symbol of love and unity in Binsworth, their unexpected departure leaving a chilling void in the heart of the town. The question echoed through the silent streets. Who would want to extinguish the light of this sweet, loving couple? In the wake of this shocking crime, Walker enlisted the help of the FBI. The investigation was meticulous, every inch of the Highsmiths' home examined, every lead pursued. But as the days turned into weeks, the truth remained elusive. The murderer left no trace, no hint of a motive. It was as if a ghost had swept through Binsworth, leaving only devastation in its wake. As the investigation deepened, so did the fear. This wasn't a simple burglary gone wrong or a personal feud turned deadly. It was something far more sinister. The community was left questioning, could one of their own be capable of such an atrocity, or was an outside force preying on their vulnerability? Despite the mounting fear and uncertainty, one thing was clear. Binsworth wasn't just a small town in Iowa anymore. It was a town under siege, a town grappling with its first taste of real, brutal crime. The peaceful streets where children once played freely were now stained with a chilling reminder of humanity's capacity for evil. In the face of this unspeakable tragedy, Sheriff Walker made a solemn vow. He wouldn't rest until justice was served, until the monster responsible for this heinous act was stripped of its cloak of anonymity and made to face the consequences of its actions. The peaceful town of Binsworth was now a crime scene. A week later, a convenience store became the stage for another shocking crime. The town's heartbeat quickened as two masked gunmen stormed the store, a pistol shot punctuating the air and the chilling demand for cash echoing through the aisle. Patrons, paralyzed by fear, were ordered to hit the floor, a command most followed without hesitation, but not all. There, amid the terror-stricken faces, a single voice emerged, soft and questioning. "Why are you doing this?" The response was a bullet, a brutal answer that silenced the question forever. The man who dared to ask was Pastor Tim Grady, a beloved figure in the community, now lying slain on the cold convenience store floor. In the ensuing chaos, the gunmen escaped, their pockets heavy with $20,000 of ill-gotten gains. The town was left to grapple with the loss of a man of faith, a beacon of hope extinguished in a moment of senseless violence. Sheriff Walker, along with the FBI, delved into the investigation, their resolve hardened by the senseless murder of Pastor Grady. As the community mourned, they scoured for clues, piecing together a jigsaw of crime that was taking over their town. The fear was palpable as news of the robbery and murder spread, casting a dark shadow over Binsworth. The quiet, peaceful town was transforming into a den of crime, each new act of violence chipping away at the sense of security the residents once took for granted. The investigation revealed more than just the identity of the criminals. It exposed the underbelly of a town in the grip of a criminal empire. The threads of crime were leading back to one man, Brady Whitney. Yet as the net tightened around him, he remained elusive, a phantom puppeteer pulling the strings from the shadows. The convenience store robbery was not just another crime. It was a symbol of the descending darkness. A darkness that was consuming Binsworth, Iowa, transforming it from a peaceful town to a breeding ground for violence and fear. The town was gripped by fear, and for good reason. Months later, a shopping center parking lot becomes the scene of a brutal shootout. The tranquility of a regular day is shattered when a car speeds into the lot. Four men, their faces obscured, unleash a hailstorm of bullets on three unsuspecting teenagers. Two girls and a boy, their lives snuffed out in a blink, their bodies writhing in a grotesque ballet of pain and shock. As quickly as the violence erupted, the car speeds off, leaving behind a scene of horror and tragedy. But this time, the law is quick on their heels. Sheriff Walker and the FBI give chase, their sirens cutting through the stillness of the night. The car, driven by desperate men, weaves through traffic in a futile attempt to escape. In the heat of the pursuit, a kinetic standoff ensues. The air is filled with the deafening roar of gunfire, the stench of fear, and the bitter taste of retribution. When the dust settles, two of the four men lay lifeless. Their reign of terror ended as abruptly as it began. The remaining two, seeing the futility of resistance, surrender. The interrogation that follows is relentless. 4 grueling hours later, the law enforcement officers uncover a horrifying truth. The deceased duo, Ray Cash and Tony Octor, were the same men responsible for the convenience store robbery and murder a month ago. The two surviving accomplices, their identities still undisclosed, are charged with aiding and abetting multiple murders. The investigation uncovers a web of crime that leads straight to a seemingly innocuous house in a quiet neighborhood of Binsworth. The house, inhabited by the charismatic and enigmatic Brady Whitney, is revealed to be the epicenter of a sprawling criminal empire. The realization dawns upon the law enforcement officers that they have stumbled upon something much bigger and sinister than what they initially thought. The end was near, but not without a fight. Brady Whitney's house became the stage for a bloody standoff. As the law closed in, the quiet facade of the neighborhood shattered into a scene straight out of a war zone. The standoff claimed 26 lives from the sheriff's department and over 45 from the Federal Bureau. Not one member of Whitney's notorious gang survived the rain of bullets that followed, either from direct police gunfire or self-inflicted shots. Yet, amidst the chaos, Whitney slipped away. He vanished into an underground tunnel, leaving his fallen gang behind. The aftermath was a grim testament to the violence and darkness that had taken root in this once peaceful town. In the wake of the tragedy, an international manhunt was launched. From the quiet streets of Binsworth to the farthest corners of the world, the law was closing in. Brady Whitney had escaped, but not for long. 6 years later, Brady Whitney's reign of terror was finally brought to an end. A peaceful farming town outside of Dublin, Ireland, became the final chapter in this gruesome saga. Interpol agents, acting on a tip, apprehended a man living under the alias Sean McHaddad. This man was none other than Brady Whitney, the mastermind of the Binsworth crime epidemic. Whitney had managed to evade authorities for years, slipping away from the clutches of justice through an underground tunnel as his empire crumbled around him. The man who had turned a quiet Iowa town into a hotbed of violence and crime, living a life of apparent tranquility in Ireland, was finally held accountable for his actions. His trial was swift, with the evidence overwhelmingly stacked against him. Each testimony, each piece of physical evidence, painted a horrifying picture of the man who had orchestrated such heinous acts. The jury sat in stunned silence as the magnitude of Whitney's crimes were laid bare before them. The verdict: guilty on all counts. The charges were numerous: murder, drug trafficking, armed robbery, and many more. Each one a testament to the reign of terror he had imposed on the innocent people of Binsworth. As the gavel fell, sealing his fate, a collective sigh of relief echoed through the courtroom. Whitney's sentence was just as severe as his crimes. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man who had once held a town captive by fear was now a prisoner himself. The iron bars of his cell, a stark contrast to the freedom he had once enjoyed. The story of Brady Whitney serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most peaceful towns. The man who turned Binsworth from a haven of tranquility into a den of crime and violence was finally behind bars. His reign of terror was over, but the scars he left on the town of Binsworth and its people would forever serve as a reminder of this dark chapter in their history.